Thank you, thank you. It's very nice to be here. So, let's start by raising your hand if you know how to drive a manual gear car. Yeah, we're in Europe. What up? How about raising your hand if you're still carrying in your bag or in your pocket a physical address book? Okay, less hands. What about buying a map every time you come to a new city to find your way around? Yes, I see you. And how about this relic? Does anyone still use this website? Unexpected. So yeah, I bet a lot of the people here are familiar with most of those objects, some still using some of them apparently, and others don't. And I mean, why would we? We have technology that improves our lives so much. Instead of carrying on a physical address book and manually writing numbers, we have all our contacts inside our phone. We can navigate anywhere in the world without the need to buy a map using Waze or Google Maps. And why would we drive a manual gear car if we have self-driving cars, or at least automatic gear? Automatic gear is enough. And why would we use Stack Overflow if we have ChatGPT? So technology is incredible. It brings tremendous value to our life. It removes the need to carry with us redundant objects and even possess redundant skills. In 2006, the US Navy announced that they are removing the celestial navigation course from its syllabus because they believe that the US Navy no longer need to know how to navigate using the stars because they have GPS. However, when we rely too heavily on technology, we might pay a price. I bet that most of the people in this room don't know more than 2 or 3 phone numbers of the close ones, which might be a big problem, if you lose your phone and you need help. Yep. And I know for a fact that some people will not know how to get back to their hotel if their GPS doesn't work. And don't get me started on trying to drive a manual gear car if you haven't tried it for a while. Right now, we are living in the beginning of a new revolution, the AI revolution. And it's amazing. It brings so much value to our life. But if we rely too heavily on AI, we might pay a price. And today, we're going to explore exactly that. So hi everyone, my name is Dennis, and I'm the Director of AI Engineering at Elementor. We are the #1 website building platform in the world. I've been practicing AI for the last 7 years, and way before it was considered cool. Way before it was considered cool. I live and breathe this topic. I constantly read the papers, I try out the technology, the tools, see the ways I can improve myself, enhance my team, and the product I'm leading. This topic is extremely relevant to me because I can see firsthand how AI made my team better, but also made it worse. So today we're going to talk about 4 topics. We'll start by defining our job, the engineering manager's job, or as I prefer to call it, the impossible job. We'll see how AI makes it better, and we'll see how AI might make it worse. And we'll wrap up by redefining what it means to be an engineering manager in this era, the era of AI. So, let's start by defining what does it mean to be an engineering manager. We know that as leaders, we need to build a team. We need to hire this team, mentor this team, and eventually, we're here for a reason. We need to execute. We need to make sure that this team is working towards a certain goal. Usually, we're not working alone by ourselves. So we need to communicate and make connections and relationships with stakeholders and peers and parties. We need to be focused on the here and now, on the current task, the current sprint, but also think further, think strategically, the next quarter, the next big thing we need to do. We need to balance this thing. We need to ensure that this team is growing and evolving. We create a culture, a DNA that we love, and the people become better because we invest time in them. And eventually, we need to also make sure that what we build works, that we deliver a high quality product and ensure that our standards are as high as they can be. In a way, it's a constant balance between technology and people management. Michael Opp said several years ago that this role is considered to be an impossible job. And it's impossible because of 4 reasons. One, there is never enough time. Who can relate? We are highly outnumbered by chaotic, beautiful snowflakes. There is always too much to do and too much to know, and the expectations from everyone for us are simply unattainable. It's a hard job, so please give yourself a round of applause because you are doing an impossible job. You deserve it. Luckily for all of us, we have AI to make our life better. And AI impacts everything. It's simply everywhere. One second. Yes, simply everywhere. So let's start to see how AI can really improve our life as engineering managers in different aspects. Let's cover the basics first. Productivity. AI definitely improves productivity because it removes the small things, those small issues or small areas that we no longer need even to think about them. Starting from note-taking, we can be present in the meeting, being actually talking about the topics we want, looking for our people, and knowing that someone takes notes, someone takes action items, and these areas are covered by tools like Phantom and TimeOS. Here's a quick example of a summary that's been gets into your email right after the meeting with everything covered, and you no longer need to think about that. Moving on to summaries, we know already that we can use any of the famous AI tools to just get a bunch of information, quickly scan it, and get the key points for us. Same goes for email. Right now we have Gemini already built in our emails that can surface important insights, summarize threads, and even answer long and tedious emails in my tone of voice with my style. And lastly, it makes us better engineers, we can write better code, and we'll talk more about that in a second. Another area that we, as engineering managers, need to constantly think of is growing and consuming knowledge. We need to first see how we are evolving as people, as leaders, as engineers, but also getting up to speed with different topics. So let's start with scheduled tasks. So here in this area, all of us, I believe, want to learn and grow, but we never have the time to read the books, read the papers, practice new development practices, and stuff like that. So ChatGPT created this really cool ability that I think I finally found how it's actually useful. It's called ChatGPT Scheduled Tasks. You can define any prompt you want. For example, a knowledge bite-sized information of a book report. Let's say you want to get up to speed with the latest trends on leadership, on communication techniques, on project management tools, or as in my example, a summary of leadership books that I love, but I never have the time to read. And now I can define whether I can take it daily, weekly, any other time, and define the format. And at that specific time, I get a push notification from ChatGPT with the value that I wanted. In this example, a summary of one of the wonderful leadership books. I can, as you know, develop a conversation with AI, start to ask follow-up questions, get more information. But what I love about it, it's concise. It's in the format, in the structure that I defined, and it's there for me. I don't need to look for it. I don't need to actively work in getting this information. Now, let's talk about the other part of knowledge consumption, where we need to get up to speed. We need to learn a new technology. We need to learn a new domain, get up to date with a certain competitor. Usually what we do is fire up Google and start browsing around, open hundreds of different tabs, trying to find the right information, the valuable sources, and then summarizing to ourselves notes until we feel we have enough information. So tools like Perplexity and ChatGPT Deep Research released an incredible ability that helps us remove this task from our life by defining what it is we want to get up to speed with. And then, in this example, ChatGPT Deep Research helped me prepare for this talk because I first wanted to know what people already think about engineering management in the era of AI. So as you can see, it worked for almost 5.5 minutes and scanned around 26 different live sources, including really great one like Lead Dev, and came with a robust report, very comprehensive report with a lot of information, and removed for me the need to browse by myself and look for things around. Just incredible. But why stop here? We all know that nowadays it's much easier to consume information by listening to it instead of just reading a lot of text. So Google released a tool called NotebookLM, which allows us to add any type of text, insert, upload there, and it will generate a podcast with 2 AI agents discussing the topics, asking questions, answering based on this information. And not only that, you can even interrupt this report and be a participant in this podcast.
So let's talk about like the biggest takeaway from this report.
Okay.
Which is that it says that AI is really changing. Hey there. Want to share your thoughts on this?
What are the current roles and responsibilities of engineering managers?
That's a great question. Let's unpack this a bit.
Yeah, it's good to set the stage.
So currently in 2020.
This is mind-blowing to me. Because think of it. You need to be ready for a meeting in the morning. You received an email last night. You run a deep research report. You get a lot of information. And then you listen to it while you do the dishes or walk around with your dog and ask follow-up questions and get much more confidence for the meeting about this topic. Another area that we as engineering managers need to be proficient in is develop our ideas, present them, and get buy-in from stakeholders. So we already covered the research part, because usually when we want to share an idea, we need to back it up with data. But then we have tools like Gamma AI that eventually takes these texts and present it in something where we can express ourselves. So Gamma AI is a really great AI tool that takes texts and turns it into beautiful presentations with clear visuals and an outline that helps us deliver our message. And it's in minutes. Think about the time you usually spend on creating the basic presentations. It's a huge lifesaver. And it's often said that a picture is worth 1,000 words. So it does in presentations. Sometimes we have too much text, and when you present, find a great visual to present this idea. So here we have Napkin AI, an example from this very slide, where you put a bunch of text, and it generates different layouts and different variations of visualizations to get a better picture of what it is you want to present. And if an image is worth 1,000 words, then I guess a working prototype is worth around 1 million. And with tools like Lovable, Base44, and additional ones, you can not only show what you want, you can create a working application where you can click, navigate around, express your ideas. It's not production. We still need to develop it. We're moving there. But in order for you to come to a meeting, to come to your team, to come to your stakeholders, and clearly express yourself, those tools are invaluable. You can write everything you want and can be as complicated as you want, because there's nothing actual beneath it, right? Code that just represents an idea. It's not production grade yet. But this way, you can explain yourself. You can say, this is what I want, now go and build it. And we all know that being an engineering manager requires to manage people. And therefore, we need to see how we enhance our soft skills. And AI does an incredible job there too. Let's start from the basics. Performance reviews. We need to help our people grow by defining goals for our people. So using AI, we can explain give enough context about our team, saying their strengths, their weaknesses, their upcoming milestones or big projects that you want them to take on, and can structure very defined, very clear and measurable goals for them. Think about you. Think about all the times you receive goals from your managers that were unattainable, not clear. You didn't understand what was the expectation from you. So your people might be feeling the same. Use AI to make it clear. And if we're already talking about our people with AI, let's take it a step further. Let's give enough context about our people to AI so we can even get recommendations and suggestions to one-on-one agenda. I shared several months ago my own technique into how do I use AI and how it helps me in my one-on-ones and my people management. You're welcome to scan the code and read it later, but in a nutshell, I use Notion where I create a database for all of my team. I write down the basic information like the role, the skills, but then I keep tracking all their achievements. It might be small victories, big ones, and also the areas they should improve in. It can be as small as they were too silent in a meeting that I expected them to talk, or bigger ones like they missed a deadline. I put it all there. And then I use Notion's AI. I use Notion's AI to help me in finding additional areas that I might have missed. I wanted to talk about several topics, but now using AI, perhaps I miss a certain trend. Perhaps I missed an anomaly in their behavior. It surfaces to me, and I can decide. I can completely ignore it, or actually use it to make my feedback more concrete. I'll let you take a photo. Moving on. So we said feedback, and we all know that in order to help our people grow, we need to invest in feedback. But feedback is hard. It's hard for several reasons. It's hard because sometimes a small feedback discussion might turn into big argument, and sometimes we think our team member received the feedback, but actually they just sat silent and didn't understand what we wanted from them, and both of us will be disappointed after a while. So for that reason, I created a custom ChatGPT called Feedback Coach. Feedback Coach. It helps us, the engineering managers, in becoming better and more prepared with feedback. Let's say you have a struggling team member who you want to give feedback to. So the chat guides you through a series of questions, asking you, okay, tell me about this person, what was the situation, what you want to achieve. You can answer in any way you want, and then it shows you. It presents you with options. Do you want a written outline that you can just send in an email? Do you want maybe a script you can practice and then talk to? Or maybe you just want to practice with the chat on different scenarios and behaviors. Then I called it coach because I believe that we as managers sometimes feel alone. We're not prepared enough because we don't have someone to practice, someone to talk with. So we're not actually improving in different areas. So in this scenario, I didn't want just to present the final text that you can use and then share it with your team. I want to actually help us in learning new techniques, new communication models. So in this example, the chat detected that the SBI, the Situation Behavior Impact Model, is the relevant communication model for this scenario. It explains me the model through the actual example that I need to use. And lastly, it provides the final script of, okay, this is what eventually how I should approach this meeting with the person. And what's important, I think, in this area, besides being prepared for the discussion, it helps this feedback get accepted and be more effective when we're already in the situation of talking with our team. But why stop there? If we already have the information about our team, if we already talk with AI and it doesn't feel weird to us, so let's completely start talking with AI and simulate crucial conversation, difficult discussions, maybe scenarios where people want to be promoted but we won't. We're asking for a raise and we can't get them. Those discussions are very hard and some of us tend to avoid them because they're so hard. But the way to be more prepared, the way to get to a point where the outcome is the one you want, is to be prepared. And for that, AI can help you simulate those discussions and you can role play. You can be the manager or actually the team member and then try to see what they would do. And using ChatGPT voice, we can actually structure the discussion and practices while we walk our dog.
You are going to prepare me to difficult conversations I need to have with Pupti. It's my employee who wants to go to a 3 days tech conference and ask the company to pay for it. However, he doesn't have the vacation days, nor we have the budget to pay for the conference. You're gonna help me prepare to follow the conversation by playing Puptits, be grumpy and persistent, and also add a sad voice to make it more realistic. Let's go.
Sure, let's dive in. Ready when you are.
I'm ready. Hi Puptits, what did you want to talk about?
Hey, I know it's tough, but I really want to attend that conference. It's important for my growth, and I was hoping we could find a way.
I understand that you don't have enough.
Wow. I can tell you firsthand that I used this for several times for different discussions. It feels weird at first. Yes, it feels weird at first. But then when you pass it, you actually understand that you're in a heaven of different opportunities and practices. And when you come to the discussion, you're much more prepared. You know in advance areas that a person, how the team member might answer a certain question, or how much you follow up in a better way so you won't actually create a situation that's just worse for you. So it's incredible, and it really helps us to manage our people in a better way. If we already have information about our team, about the skills, the opportunities, the weaknesses, and the plans ahead, AI can even help us in hiring and onboarding. It starts with something as simple as writing a job description. Think about all the times where you had a new position opening up, and you just copy-paste a full-stack engineer description from somewhere. But you don't really need just a full-stack engineer, right? Maybe more on the front end, less on the back end. But I'm talking even deeper. Let's look at your team. Your team should be a complete scenario, a complete group of people that compensate on one another. So, for example, you have 3 team members and no one is good at project management, then the 4th one perhaps should be a bit more experienced in this area. If all 4 are too vocal, maybe you don't want to add more heat to the fire. So when you have enough context providing with AI, plus giving it additional context for what are your goals, what it is you want to achieve and expect it to achieve, it's easier for AI to generate a job description that really matches the need for that additional team member. And of course, in order to understand whether this candidate is the right one for you, you should generate interview questions that are not only talking about React hooks and stuff like that, but those specific areas that you actually need for your next team member. If you have too many candidates applying to your jobs, there are different AI tools like HiredScore that can help you rank and score candidates based on their qualifications. And lastly, once we hire someone, usually they're not perfect. So we need to create a tailor-made onboarding plan that compensates on the areas that we are lacking. It's okay that we are lacking, but we need to make sure that we get this information from within the company, maybe outside of the company. But this ability creates a better journey for the new team member to get up to speed fast. Lastly, being engineering managers means that we also need to understand technical stuff and even write code. So let's see how AI helps us here. We all remember GitHub Copilot that burst into our life with autocompletes. But since then, we have so many better tools we will cover in a second. But I want to present another idea of how you can use GitHub Copilot or any other AI tool. Think about technical designs. Think about complicated code and about flowcharts. How you would wish that sometimes you would just have a clear picture of what this service does. So GitHub Copilot and additional tools are already integrated with your code. You can ask them to generate a mermaid format diagram, paste it into Draw.io, and in seconds, literally seconds, you have an accurate flowchart of your entire service, who calls what parameters are being passed, and you can understand whether it's new code which you want to use, which you now need to understand, or just make sure that what you've built really reflects what it is you want it to do. And of course, how can we talk about AI technology without mentioning the new AI agentic editors like Windsurf and Cursor, which are incredible because they not only autocomplete code for us, they actually write it for us. It makes our life much easier. However, by the way, how many of you use Cursor? All right, I really recommend and encourage you to give it a try. But if you'll use it too much, you'll find that in some scenarios, it feels a little bit like an elephant in a china shop. Because you ask it to update a parameter in one file, but then it rewrites the whole service and the whole architecture by accident. And then no, don't do it, redo, let's start over. For that, we need guardrails, and Cursor provides us with some. I encourage you to use Cursor rules. Cursor rules help you to create standard and actually enforce standard, so that every developer on your team, including you, when they write code, it will be the same type of code. You don't need to always tell it, act as a senior engineer, do stuff like that. You can define things like as simple as name conventions, file structure, but sometimes much more robust instructions. How do you expect it to plan? What type of tests do you expect it to write and when? What do you use typing? If so, when? If there are specific nuances in your code base, you can instruct it. You can ask it to be the senior engineer writing clean code and don't repeating yourself. Even thinking about logging and monitoring, so that once you start writing code, once the Cursor writes code, it will be the best code you can get from it. It even goes as far as generating a PR description in the same format across your whole team, so it will be very clear what was done and what changed. And even if you remember the flowchart from before, you can ask it, because if you can commit it inside your repository, you'll have live designs and live flowcharts that are always being updated. Think about it for a second. I bet many of you have written technical designs and created flowcharts, but how many minutes passed until they were outdated? Around 3, right? With tools like Cursor and Windsurf, you can instruct it to always update designs, readmes, and flowcharts, so it will be easier not only for developers, but also for AI to take on the next task, because it can use this as an accurate context for the job. In a way, we no longer need to look on every PR, look for the small typos, the naming conventions, whether the new developer added tests or not. We can focus on the big things and on the strategy and let AI take care of the rest. So let's see how our role changed so far. We saw that we have increased productivity. We can share ideas in a better way. Our soft skills are enhanced and we can manage our people better. We can even hire better, and our coding skills went to a next level, so that we can finally think about the future and be more strategic. In a way, we're becoming an enhanced version of engineering managers. And now our role would be not only to use all these benefits on us, but to make sure that our team is also adopting and using these abilities, so that not only we as engineering managers will benefit from them, but also they. But let's think about the future. I would say the near future. Why would we stop only with AI that's fully connected with our code base? How about we add it to more areas of our work? Maybe our email, it's already there, Gemini, the calendar, all the meetings, Slack, Jira, Confluence, whatever additional tools you use, wherever information exists, and wherever humans are interacting with one another. And instead of getting a co-pilot for code, we'll get a co-pilot for humans. And remember I promised you a working prototype, so in order for me to save 1 million words? Well, let's check this example, where you can see, this is something I built in Lovable, and it's the daily AI report from the engineering manager's co-pilot that scans every Slack interaction, every meeting, and detects things like passive-aggressive or negative behavior, like a snitch. And it informs me that David did something, that James told something, that someone else didn't come to a meeting, and I'm not even there. I can sit near my desk and even get a Slack notification from the engineering manager co-pilot saying, hey, look at Pooptits. He was very passive-aggressive in talking to David. And we already know that AI can generate feedback which is better than humans, so why won't I just push the button and send it away? Our role might become much easier with tools like that, right? Raise your hand if you would use this. All right. Remember when we said, when we rely on technology too heavily, we might pay a price? So AI is no different. Yes, it's incredible. It brings a lot of value and we see the benefits. They're practical, you can use them today. But if we start to rely on them too heavily, we might pay a price. 2 years ago, a lawyer used ChatGPT to back up his case. ChatGPT hallucinated and invented examples. He used them in court, got caught, and lost his license. I bet many of you, when you see text from ChatGPT, you can already kind of detect it, right? Like, oh, I know a human didn't write it. So this is an actual example that one of the person that I mentor received from their manager. Frankly, I don't know half of those words. And so help me God, I don't understand those emojis. But this is an actual performance review goal that an employee received. How would you feel if your manager will just copy paste unclear text from AI and say, yeah, you do that? Your people don't want to talk to AI. They know you're using AI, but they don't want to talk to AI. They want to talk to a human being. And I think that the biggest challenge that we as engineering managers are going to face actually comes from this incredible present that's called Cursor. Because life is it's so better when using tools like Windsurf and Cursor. Suddenly your team works faster, you deliver more value, you do more stuff, you do stuff that maybe you wouldn't even think of. Because now if you need a PHP plugin and you don't know PHP, there's no problem. Cursor can write PHP code as well. So at first, it's a blessing. But then you start to see the triggers. You start to hearing your team saying, oh, Cursor did that bug. Cursor made it work. And Cursor can't fix that, so what can we do? But Cursor isn't on the team. It's just a tool. But what happens is that people start to rely on it too much. And when senior engineers, people with a lot of experience, who've been there and done a few stuffs, use those tools, they really get enhanced. But for more junior engineers and less experienced ones, it might be a very dangerous thing. Because what you will start seeing is what we call vibe coding, right? But vibe coding was supposed to be for weekend projects for non-engineers. But here you'll see your team members typing and bumping their head around the keyboard, trying to explain Cursor how to add one parameter above the other. They will not know how things work because they just have a PR of 20 files and it seems to work, so let's not touch it. It might follow different practices and best practices because a lot of things going on and we might not understand exactly how it happens, so we can lose track of them. And eventually what makes us engineers, what makes us unique is our critical thinking. Because when something happens in production, when something is not trivial, we can figure it out. And AI won't. And those engineers that don't possess this ability will keep bumping their head and hit around the bush and not understand how to solve the actual problem. Take a look at this function. What would happen if you'd ask any AI tool to write tests for this function? It will write tests to this function. What would happen if you'd ask any mid-level engineer to write tests to this function? They would immediately tell you, what are you doing? You're violating single responsibility. It's doing too much. It has a lot of parameters. Let's refactor the code. And this is the right answer. By the way, if you ask AI to act as a senior engineer and observe, what do you think about this function before you write test, it might do this. But what will usually happen is that engineers would simply write tests. And we'll get around, I don't know, 250 use cases, and they'll feel really good about themselves because they're writing tests and tests are good, right? But it's not about that. Several years ago, I wrote about a topic called the expert beginner. In any skill that we are learning, whether it's playing tennis or writing to learn code, we're walking through a journey, starting from the novice until we advance and get to higher levels of proficiency. But there is a trap. It's called the expert beginners. Those are beginners in any topic, including coding, that think of themselves as experts while they're not. And it's a very hard trap because they have a false confidence that in the past would be eliminated because people, in order to learn how to code, in order to how to become engineers, would go to school, read books, work hard, get production incidents, understand why some things matter. But now, using vibe coding, anyone with 5 minutes of experience can use any of those tools and generating a working software, a really cool working software, which will create this illusion that they no longer need to learn because they can just prompt their way out of it. Why would read books and understand patterns if you can simply talk with AI and simply talk to AI and get it do whatever you want? But when we rely on it too much, we will see problems. We'll see that it can't handle complicated tasks. It can't really build for scale. And those actual engineers, when asked to mentor new team members, struggle because they don't know how things work. It's hard for them to explain how certain things work. And they don't, and again, but when they get the keyboard, they make it work because cursor helps them. So they don't even understand that they should learn. It's on us. It's on us to encourage them, to look under the hood, to understand, to teach them the importance of design patterns and critical thinking in engineering. And it's on us to actually make them better, not only by using AI, but being engineers. And in order to understand that, we are starting a new generation of engineers that will join your teams, that will never see this site, and who will never write code without AI. Think about it for a second. It's happening. Oh my God. So yes, this role, when talking about this topic, it seems that this role actually becomes harder because now we need to balance. On the one hand, AI is incredible. We need to help, we need to absorb, take the benefits, get the value from those abilities and those tools. But on the other hand, we need to remain human. We need to make sure that we emphasize with our team, that we remain authentic, that we don't rely on it too much and remain human. So we're not only balancing technology and people, we are balancing AI and humanity. And to do it, we need to focus, like what does it mean to remain human? We need to constantly build trust, build strong relationships with our team. We need to remain authentic. We can use AI, but our team shouldn't know what we're using AI. We need to be there for them when they need us. We need to understand what drives them, their motivations, and connect it to the company goals, because eventually this is what they're here for. Yes, they have ambitions, but we need to achieve something. So we're working on it together. We need to always mentor. We should leverage AI, but we shouldn't rely on it solely to make sure that our people are growing. And for that, we need to genuinely care for our team. Personally, because caring for a team is a big word, is a big sentence. I take interest in my team's families, in their friends, and every one-on-one we start with talking about their family, about their close ones. I know their birthdays, and I write a handwritten note with a small blessing on every anniversary in their team. I observe and I write down, as you saw in Notion, the victories and the areas where they require feedback, so I can support them when it's hard for them and celebrate with them when they are growing and making an impact. There's a great title that Bill Campbell once said. Your title makes you a manager. Your people make you a leader. So the new engineering manager in this era is actually need to always think about two things. You need to encourage AI to stay updated. Every day something else happens. It doesn't mean you need to know everything, but you should be aware. You should be aware of tools that can improve and enhance your abilities. And you need to provide opportunities for your team, because everyone needs to benefit from it, not only you and not only them. However, you need to remain human, human-centric leadership, and to avoid fully relying on AI. Ensure that your team understands what it is they're doing. They can use AI as a starting point, but never as the final answer, never as 100% reliance, because this is how you grow. This is how you still balance technology and people. So is it really harder? I would say it's different, not necessarily harder. And before we wrap up, I want to close with a quote of a great software engineer, Bruce Lee, who had a wonderful quote saying, "Be water." And he means that you need to constantly adapt to our environment, constantly adapt, learn, and change yourself. So I want to tweak this quote a little bit. Yes, we need to keep adapting. We need to be aware of our surrounding, our environment. We need to harness AI and its abilities. But we need to remain human. We need to be focused on growing our team. Thank you.